Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Gray Area here on the Black Man Unfiltered Network, simulcasting on the Sparta HQ Network. I'm Mr. Bennett, joined by my partner, as always,
This is Sparta!
the ghost of Sparta, aka Peter, aka Padiotis. Yasu, my brother, what is going on?
What is going on, everybody, on this rainy night?
Yeah, they say April showers bring May flowers, but the rain is still coming. So, yeah, definitely it's going to be a very soggy week here up in the Northeast. But still, every season has a reason. So, hey, yeah, any day I can get up and just enjoy it, I sort of take it all in. But certainly for all of you guys joining us tonight, thank you for joining us. Make sure you hit the like button as you come in tonight. Certainly to the show helps the algorithm on both networks. If you mind hopping over to my man Sparta HQ's network and hitting the like button there really helps us out. Really appreciate the support. And certainly any support that you want to give to us personally, see our Cash App scrolling at the bottom of the screen. You can certainly drop us a Cash App. We much appreciate it. Or consider certainly giving an offering to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. Certainly that would all help us out. But again, good to have you guys with us. As we get into this topic tonight, so I know, me and Pete were just kind of going to ideas. So he just jumped a big load of shows. So, you're going to see a lot of interesting topics that are going to be coming up on the Gray Area in the coming weeks and months. But, Pete, you want to, sort of do a deep dive into this. And so we're going to be talking about this idea of toxic family relationships. And is there a point, or at what point do you definitely drop somebody from your life, a family member from your life? And, so that could be a can of worms under itself. And this is something that, certainly I think happens in all families. Certainly we have friends of ours, from African cultures, hey, Catellia is back in the building. Where have you been? Where have you been? We've missed you so much over the last couple of months. I hope you're doing well. Hope your family is doing well. And it is good. My man Eric is in the building tonight. Salute to you, sir. Thank you for joining on with us tonight as well. And Mariana Constantine also in the chat tonight. It's great to see you as well. So, yeah, so the folks are here. But again, to Catellia, special shout out to her. Missed you in these streets for a while. And I'm just good. I'm just glad that you're joining us again. You didn't forget about your boys. So, again, we appreciate you being here. But yeah, let's get into some of this tonight. Toxic.
Before we do that, Paul,
yeah.
I actually want to talk about something that came into my radar this morning.
Oh, please. Go ahead.
I had a friend / colleague named Chef Trey. Chef Trey is one of the most wonderful people I ever met. Very educated in food, very educated in his beliefs in God and everything. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed recently with 4-stage cancer, colon and lung. He got hit with a double whammy.
Wow.
So I just want to throw a quick shout out to him. My prayers and everything towards him and his family. He's been through a rough year this year.
Absolutely.
If anybody can just show a little prayer and keep his family in mind and everything, I would appreciate it, because he's a really close friend of mine, and he's one of my mentors. He was one of my teachers who got me into the chef positions. Before I became a chef, I was just a grunt cook, like we call it in my field. I just want to give him a quick shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That's it's tough. So he's married, children.
Married with a 15-year-old daughter. So
15-year-old daughter. Okay.
He's been through hell a lot. So I just want to throw a quick shout out to him. He's one of the most wonderful people I ever met. I can't say anything bad about him. I wish I had one bad thing about to say him. I can't. And I remember when me and him first met, we butted heads like freaking rams, and literally just like that. I remember he wanted to do, we used to have a spicy chicken on the menu. He goes, we're going to make it from scratch. I'm like, oh, get fucked. I'm not doing chicken cutlets from scratch. You can kiss my hairy Greek ass. He turned around. He goes, you kiss my freaking hairy black ass. I'm like, what if I was kiss that fucking shit? We're arguing. He's like probably 6'5". He came down. We were nose to nose, Ben, and we're screaming at each other. And next minute, 10 minutes later, like, you want to get a beer later? Like, yeah, sure, why not? We only live like 10 minutes away, and we're right. 45 minutes of work. So it was just a great experience to work with him. It broke my heart when I got that news today.
Yeah. Definitely. Again, thoughts would be certainly with him as he goes through this difficult time. And certainly for that family who's going to, certainly bear the brunt of it, especially when, when you have, there's no good time to, certainly lose a parent. I don't care if the parent's 90 and you're 70. It's never good. It's never a good time. And but you know,
What
certainly,
amazes me with him right now, he's always been a fighter. This guy, he's always a fighter. But one thing he did tell me was, I laughed at it when I heard what motivates him. It's my language. Seriously, was he sees my mom fighting this cancer for 5 years,
Mhm.
off and on, comes and goes, comes and goes. That motivates him. He said,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it took me a little bit of shocker. Like, my mom, really? I'm like, okay, I'll take it. I'll take it in a day of the week.
Yeah. Well, you never know who's watching you. You know what I mean? So in your example, you think, you know, no one cares, no one's looking, but, you know, you have no idea, you know, who you're inspiring, you know, just by your lifestyle and whatnot. So again, even the things that you do privately, people are watching. So, you know, certainly the fact that your mom is, you know, tough cookie and she's, you know, she's going through the battle herself.
Oh, you met her. You know how she is.
Oh, yes, yes. Very much so. Very much so. Can's going to have a big fight on his hands. Certainly trying to take her out. So you know, be careful with the battles that you wish for. But certainly, but yeah, definitely shout out to your friend, and you know, certainly wishing him nothing but the best in the months to come. So, but yeah, but I know you had brought up this topic when it comes to family members. So I just want to, you know, just kind of. So I'll just ask you, what was your motivation, inspiration for this, you know, for this topic? I know you talked about, you know, just issues you have with your family in the past, not necessarily your immediate circle, but certainly, you know, extended family members and whatnot. I know when you and your mom had some struggles and difficulties, but you know, certainly, you know, you can certainly, you know, set the level, set the show.
Yeah, I want to set the stage.
Take the conversation from there for sure.
I know I had spoken about this before. I'm going to bring it up once again. A few years ago, obviously, my mom was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. When I needed support, not financially, not someone to take her to chemo, just a hearing aid, a hug, or somebody to cry, I was told to get fucked pretty much. And he was supposed to be, we used to say to each other, joking around, like, not joking around seriously, like, we're more like brothers than cousins.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, brothers don't abandon you when you're in need. Family doesn't abandon you when you need somebody.
Mhm.
All because my parents finally separated, and I had literally had to pick and choose who I'm going to take care of at the moment. And at the moment, my mother was in a lot worse condition than my father was.
Mhm.
And my father is not in a worse condition. He's still functioning. He's still everything. There's only thing his legs are all screwed up, and he's going through therapy in a rehab system living. So have them both in here. Literally, I'm going to hear this. I'm not even joking about that. Is my father used to joke around, like, if I piss your mom off, it's going to be World War III/Vietnam Part 2.
Mhm.
That's how bad they used to fight. And now
Right.
my mom doesn't want to hear his name.
Mhm.
Not the name John as much, just his John, my father.
Mhm.
She hates hearing that name.
Mhm.
It boils her blood. Obviously, they had their issues for years and years and years. But when my family is trying to get involved with that, and I told them, like, you guys need to stay the heck out of this. Does not concern nobody but them. The only thing that's concerning you guys is their health. That's it.
Mhm.
But nobody want to listen to me. They want to get involved. Because I didn't pick sides, and I did not pick sides. I am the bad son. I'm the horrible cousin. You met me in person, Paul.
Mhm.
You met me with my mom. Do you really think I'm a bad son to her?
No, not at all. I mean, you got to be a heck of a son in order to, you know, your mom, like I said, she's a very interesting character, and certainly the patience that you have with her, and just the dynamic you have, certainly, you know, you might be one of the few who could, you know, live with her and you know, and do all the things that you know that you have to do. So yeah, it's, you know, like I said, I mean, that's the unfortunate side. You know, when there is family breakup, you know, the sad part is, you know, what about the kids? or both. I'm not taking a side either one, but for the sake of your kids in terms of having them to make these choices. So when we talk about these toxic families or dysfunctional families, a lot of times it starts with the mother and the father, or the husband and the wife.
Mm-hmm.
And there's collateral damage, unfortunately, what comes when that core isn't correct. Even in communities, because I know I've heard a lot of talk as of late, as far as certainly village, more communal living versus like the whole idea of the nuclear family seems to be almost like a European type of standard: mother, father, children. But there's a lot of cultures around the world where there's like a village. It's a multi-layered. It's cousins. It's other relatives. It's a community that you're not only accountable to, but you're also certainly they give you additional support, especially when you used to have larger families with a lot of kids. But certainly the idea of the sort of the island, the family as an island unto itself, people have called out that in and of itself has some consequences to it, that you don't have that additional support that you need. But in your case, sometimes that can work against you, because again, family members can get into situations when they don't have to, or when they don't need to, and not let people work it out. So that's a judgment call. It's like when does the village or when does the extended family come in? When do you take a step back? None of these things are necessarily exact sciences, but generally speaking, the fact that family members kind of get on two sides of the issue can just be simply just add more problems to a situation. But again, sometimes you can't help that, like I said, especially when there are kids involved, and especially if there's young children involved, and then you don't look down the line in terms of how does that affect their relationships, certainly down the line. I mean, listen to your mom and dad fight all the time. I mean, you're trying to go to sleep and you're just hearing the constant arguing, the back and forth. Sometimes it's right in front of you. I mean, there's been situations I've seen, physical things in front of children. I mean, the fact that you can get so caught up in your own issues that you neglect the most vulnerable that's in front of you. Not to keep those arguments private, or not to, put in a situation where your kids aren't affected by it. So
one thing about my parents, towards at least the last several years, like the last 20 years, I would say, maybe a little more. My father stayed in New York mostly because he worked in New York. He was a yellow cab driver. Yeah. Then he converted to Uber. It didn't make sense financially to him drive back and forth. He rented a little studio apartment. Okay. But really it wasn't this to commute more. It was more he didn't want to come home because he didn't want to deal with the drama of my mom. And I didn't realize how bad it was to they actually say, that's it, we're done. When I realized, I knew they should have been separated a long time ago, but I didn't expect it was ever going to happen.
Yeah. And that's something that a lot of folks, I know my generation, my parents never divorced, even though my parents weren't together since 1970, but they never divorced. And same thing with my wife's parents. That generation was such where, you would get separated, but the D word was just like, that was like a never sort of thing, even though they had no intention of getting back together. So I think a lot of couples were like, so yeah, I mean, you can be not together and everything, but when you say you're, done, or even mention the D word, that's still something that's like a shock to the system, because that typically, certainly for older generations, that just didn't happen.
And it was a shocker when it happened to me. Excuse me. It was a shocker because I didn't know. And then I found out, right before all this, my dad getting hurt, my mom's health and everything happened. A year before, he goes, yeah, I cheated on your mom because I need to get cheeks. He goes to me, I'm like, your mom wasn't giving up to me. And so it was a sexless marriage. There were issues. The only good thing I would say about my father to my mom, whatever she asked, she got it. I would care about that. She wanted, groceries from New York, no problem. She needed this, no problem. Not wanted that, no problem. I care for that to the last day they were together. He got her everything he
needed. And a lot of those old school relationships were like that as well. You could be in the same house and not talk to one another, but the meal would be at the table, or the lawn would get mowed, or just the duties of the spouse, of the husband or the wife, would still get done, but as far as the intimacy between the couple, that was like, that was like an, sort of a far-fledged thing. But yeah, but that's how it just aligned. The idea of honor and duty and commitment. Certainly, those are things that they practiced very well. Unfortunately, like I said, they couldn't get the other parts, the trust issues, or with the intimacy. They couldn't necessarily get that back together. But yeah, not uncommon for older generations to have that kind of commitment. These days, I can't imagine an X, or even like certainly not a millennial or Zer, still having that level of commitment. Yeah, I'm separated from each other, but I'm still going to do my thing. I mean, that seems to be when people check out, they check all the way out.
Like you said, it's a generation thing. But back to my cousins, because I never had a brother and sisters who say, "Hey, I can talk to them or whatever." And I know I said this before. I know it sounds very cheesy what I'm saying, and I don't give a shit, to be honest with you. Is the most people that became more my family is definitely CQ. I mentioned that before. I think it has more being a family. You guys from the BMU network. I'm not yourself, BMU, all you guys, and you. Like I said before, I really don't have a family. Anything that ever happened to me, for example, I had to get hospitalized, maybe another kidney stone or something. Maybe I just had a heart attack and I have to be in a hospital. God forbid. You know what I'm saying? Who's going to watch mom? Who's going to walk Alex? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Nobody. Because, yeah, I can call for favors, but most of my favorite friends are not the closest person I have. It's you, Paul. I know how cheesy it is. You're the closest person to me. Everybody else is a minimum 2 hours away.
Right.
But again, I can't expect you to drop everything you're doing because you have your family, your wife and kids and your dog and everything else you got to do to take care of them.
All right. This seems like it's a reunion tonight. We got Alexis from Texas. Haven't seen you in a minute either. How are you been? Good to have you back. So we got Alexis. We got Catellia. This is like a reunion. I mean, it's like the getting the band back together. I love it. Hope everything's well with you, and thanks for hopping on with us tonight. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, I mean, it can be, and that's the thing. I mean, what family should be about, or what the benefit is, again, having that support, the idea of the multi-generation. I mean, I've been thinking about that myself in recent years, about the idea of having the multi-generational household. Now, again, you need a big enough house. Trust me, you've seen the size of my house, but even then, it's too small, because I'm having the only good thing is I got one graduating this month, and my oldest, she's going to med school in August. So we'll have one less person here for that time, but it's compact, because it's not just having a bedroom; it's having your living space, it's having closet space, it's having certain amenities that you would have if you had your own place. So certainly having a larger multi-unit, multi-family home, and I'm always giving credit to like Latino families. I have a lot in my neighborhood. And again, they'll take a place and they'll have several families all within the same structure. The three levels of three generations within the same household, and how each one benefits the other. So again, the grandmoms were your babysitters, or your grandfathers were the babysitters, and while the sort of the nuclear couple, the ones in their 30s and 40s, they kind of supported everybody else. The parents didn't have to worry about going to a nursing home, because again, there was that support there. And I've seen that culture certainly in Indian culture. People growing up in a household where it's like 20 cousins in the same building. You know what I mean? So again, I give thought to that is certainly has a lot of benefits to it. But because of the toxicity within families, and because of just the culture itself, in terms of what the culture promotes, this idea of independence, that certainly you get to a certain age, when you graduate college, you get your first job, and once you start making some money, it's almost like the expectation is to move out. And again, I told my daughters, it's like, look, you guys, I recognize it can feel kind of like claustrophobic with all of the space issues that are here. But I'm not in a hurry to kick them out of the house, especially where we live, where the cost of everything is so exorbitant. that you can stay here as long as you want. I told them that you don't feel that you have to leave on our part. But the idea of having generations in the same home, I think there's so much that could be learned from that, passing down culture, passing down tradition, passing down values, and that's that sense of again togetherness. But I think the nation, I think just popular culture preaches this idea of independence and having my own over everything else. It is not to say that, again, certainly there's a time for privacy. There's a time to, stretch your wings and see things and whatnot. But there's just this, prevailing cultural dynamic. But I think, with the economic situations as they're occurring now, we may see a resurgence of that because it's just practical. Would you rather live with 4 roommates, folks that you don't know or whatever, or would you rather live with the family? But I think the culture itself. Remember Friends when that came out? We had Friends, we had girlfriends, we had living single. The whole idea of adults, adult women, adult men, sort of cohabitating together in the same space, sort of replaced the idea of family, living with family or whatever. It was better to be in that situation versus being with certainly your own bloodline. So certainly that aspect, certainly over the last 30, 40 years, has certainly, I think, changed the culture to a degree. But hopefully, economics, hopefully, may very well turn people back to that, just out of practicality. That it's rough out here trying to do it on your own unless you're making some serious money.
You're right. The only thing I want to backtrack and correct myself on one thing. Actually, Mariana, who's in our chats tonight, she's also been a big support and helped me as much as she can. Again, I can't have her drop everything. I don't expect anybody to drop what they're doing and help me out. Like, that's been selfish and kind of fucked up, let's be honest here. But what you're saying about the living situation, I totally agree with you. I know several people who they bought big houses for a reason, like yourself, and they have their cousins or actually their wives, sisters living there, and their brother-in-laws or their cousins or uncles and aunts. I'm like, damn, where you fit everybody? Like,
shout out my brother and his wife, his departed wife. They did that for years. I mean, you want to talk about they're probably the biggest example of a dysfunctional, functional home. And what I mean by that is, you go over there. One, you don't know who's going to be there because someone's in, someone moves in, someone moves out. That certain person moves back and someone moves out. Then that person comes back another time. That person's back there again. I mean, it was just like a revolving door of people being in and out of that situation. Sometimes it can be chaotic. But it worked for a long period of time. And for me, the sad part about it was, unfortunately, they had split. But they didn't realize it. I think that whole idea I was trying to convey to them is that your marriage may not look ideal. This isn't the Brady Bunch. This isn't June Cleaver. This isn't, some perfect, TV family. But it works. And it's worked for so many. And for some reason, they couldn't see necessarily the value in what they were able to offer, what they were able to create, and how, despite their situations, they were better together. But when they did split, everything just kind of fell, in certain ways. And so, so that was to me, that was hard to take, seeing them. But like I said, I never saw a situation like that where, it was just a household that certainly I would go crazy if I had to do that. But for them, I actually respected them so much because there were a lot of people who would have been lost by the wayside if they hadn't stepped in and hadn't provided that kind of environment for people. So I was just always just very, amazed at what they were able to do for so long. And the other thing, I was like, look, you guys been doing it so long. What else are you going to do? You think you're going to get out here? You had 30 years. You think you're going to get out here and find better at this point? And unfortunately, they found out the hard way. But it was definitely something where, sometimes you just have to accept that this is the lot that you have, as crazy as it is. But again, you guys did a lot I think, for each other, and certainly for the extended families that you guys took care of for many years. And I just think we're going to need more of that if we want these families to survive, certainly going forward. So, but the idea of toxicity is certainly something that we need to we need to deal with, because it is is bleeding us in terms of people not only deciding, and we've talked about this in early shows, deciding whether or not you want to have a family or not. So as you have more people deciding to be childless. I know people who have more dogs than children, fur babies, as they call them. And I love dogs, but certainly I recognize that they're not obviously they're not the same thing, and there's a limited they're limited in terms of what they can do for you. So but yeah, that's a major,
and that's the sad part, is because people are scared to get married now these days, because they're scared of the whole divorce and separation thing, and what do they gonna have to pay out when that day comes. But why are you already dooming a relationship when he hasn't even started? That is the first question I have to everybody out there tonight. And the second thing is, if you don't take a chance in life, you will never know. Good example. You're a great example, Paul, and my buddy CQ. Is you guys both took chances. You were married under what, 10 months was it that you said before?
From start to finish with 10 months, yeah. From first date to marriage, the marriage date was 10 months.
And that's my point. I'm like, usually most people don't get married that fast. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But you took a chance, and you won in the end.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Well, I think I certainly think that when you say take a chance, per se, it wasn't just blind chance. I think for me, and I kind of took it differently in that I wanted what I didn't have. Like, I grew up in a very dysfunctional situation, both on the parent side, on the sibling side. And I even had those ideas myself, as far as, did I want to get married at some point, just knowing and seeing what marriage looked like in my family, my siblings' marriages, and obviously my parents' marriage and whatnot. So I kind of had that kind of perspective also. But I was fortunate enough to, again, see some examples, enough to say that I wanted to do something different than or I wanted to sort of break the cycle of what I was seeing in my family. I wanted a different outcome. Mm-hmm. And so part of it is, again, what you're exposed to. Part of it is what you see, for yourself. And I just saw enough. I'm not saying even that the marriages that I did see that I thought were good ones, that they didn't have their problems, or that they were perfect by any means. But it was enough that I was then inspired to seek a different outcome, especially hearing from some of these folks, the type of marriages that they, the family backgrounds that they came from. They came from dysfunction, alcoholism, and all kind of abandonment issues and things like that. But they decided to switch some things around. And so that was really the catalyst for me, that I want another outcome. Some other people are repelled by that. For me, I was like, I just wanted to change. And that was really at heart of what was driving all the actions that came from that. And so for anybody, I think that's an important piece, that you have to, again, what outcomes are you looking for? And that's why I don't get so much into feelings about, what people feel about a situation. I think at the end of the day, you have to think about the outcomes that you want. Yeah, it's okay to risk a business plan, have your wealth, but I think that's how you got to take it on also, CJ. And shout out to you for being here. Appreciate you being here tonight. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it is just like that, where you have to make strategic risk, smart risk, not have these lofty expectations coming out of it. How much risk are you willing to tolerate? I can have a financial guy come to me and say, "Hey, we got this offer for you," or whatever. But look, if that's above my tolerance, then no, I'm not putting all my chips in the middle of the table over some deal or whatever. You know what I mean? So So I think that has to go certainly into the calculation. But even then, there's only certain things that you can control. Like I said, my family started out, and again, I get this from the stories that my older siblings told me about what their younger lives were like. It was a very sort of happy, sort of productive, constructive household. My siblings were very close growing up. But again, as my mom's mental illness started to, take more control over her, as my dad's drinking started to, unravel him to a degree, and that toxic mix started to unravel things, it definitely set some things aloof. And then even in their adult relationships, I know I have two sisters. They lived together for several years. They were thick as thieves. And here they are. They both live in the same city and seldom talk to one another. I mean, and I don't even know all that went down. How do you guys go from being besties, they traveled the world together, they did all these things together, to how did it go from what it was to what it is now, which isn't necessarily a positive thing. I have a daughter, she's going out there to visit where they are. And, she kind of indicated that it's like, why are you going to see that sibling? I'm like, I mean, come on. I mean, how often is my daughter in town? She's gonna get a chance to see everybody. But there was just a little tension there. So it can unravel at any time in the relationship. So you may start out well, or sometimes you can repair it. As you come down the road. I had to do some of that myself. And a lot of that stuff happened out of stuff that was said that didn't, that I guess a lack of communication caused some issues that I had no idea was causing issues. And so a lack of communication caused some rifts that I wasn't even aware of that I had caused, that I had to kind of set right. And I had to kind of level set and explain, what was going on. But I'm kind of still upset at the situation, because the thing is, like, look, you could have come and talked to me about it if it was an issue. But you're going to let all this time go by. So I think a lot of this dysfunction, this toxicity that we're seeing is, again, things are not necessarily on the table. And you let tensions and stress and anxiety and anger and things just build up instead of getting things out on the floor. But as soon as it came up, we kind of squashed the beef. It was like that. We were good. But I was still upset. It's like, well, why did it have to be bad?
See, me and my cousin spoke after that. It was about property we own in Greece. And the only thing he at first I try to be casual about it. Hey, what's going on? Yada, yada. Oh, no, so just chilling, dude. Whatever. So I talk and get into it, fine. And I spoke to my mom and tell her, hey, last call, blah, blah, blah. This and this and this. He goes, well, we have some property on one of the islands. And she goes, we're not going to do anything with it. It's property. There's no house on it. Nothing. Let's sell it. If your cousin wants to buy it, this is our number. Text him the number. He goes, where'd you come up with the number? Like, it doesn't matter where I come up with. That's what I want. He goes, that's fine. But I'm not going to go over real estate price, whatever. He's going back arguing me already. Then he goes, what about the money your mom owns me? What money? So my aunt and my uncle decided to go to Andros to go find the property because they lost, paperwork and all that stuff, right? Okay. And then they dropped this big bill on my mom saying, oh, you got to pay this. I go, I'm not paying your vacation. It's simple as that. I didn't know you guys were going on business or vacation. So get fucked, pretty much. In a little nicer way. Even after my aunt passed away and my uncle passed away, both of my uncles passed away, that he's still saying, I want that money. But newsflash, dipshit, it works completely different in Greece. It doesn't go to the grandkids. It goes to... or you kids, it goes to the last survivor. The last survivor is my mother. Without my mom's permission, nothing can happen. Like, he can try whatever he wants. They went so far, bro. Okay, this is how fucked up the situation is. They actually said my mother was dead. And I'm getting letters and emails from Greek lawyers saying, "Oh, can you please prove your mom's deceased?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Deceased." I'm poking her. She goes, "Why are you poking me?" I just got this weird email on my phone that you got this, you're deceased. I'm like, "The fuck are you talking about?" I showed her. I actually blew her up because as you can see, I had a tablet at the time. She looked at it and goes, "Susan, that son of a bitch. I bet you those are your cousins again at it again."
Mm-hmm.
And she did a little, CIA work, and she found out it was my cousin. And I'm like, of course. Why wouldn't a big family say, to take the easy route before sit down and have a conversation? Okay, we're going to split the property X, Y, Z ways. You get your side, I get my side, you get your side. They call it a day. But nope. Again. Anyway, screw family over. Definitely when it comes to money. I realize that. When it comes to money, forget it. That'll be a big can of worms.
Yeah. That's a big thing. When a parent, or certainly when a parent dies and the state has, fortunately, my parents, they had very little money at the end of the day. So it was pretty easy. I was kind of like executor on certainly my dad's, and then my sister. In fact, we had got an email that my mom, she had this insurance policy, but she had my sister as the possessor of the insurance policy and everything. So I just put it out there to everybody. I said, look, mom's got this policy, and actually I gave it direct to my sister. I didn't broadcast it because again, I didn't necessarily want the word to get out until she knew exactly what was going to be happening. And so at the end of the day, because my mom really wasn't paying on the insurance policy, I think that the payout on the policy, it might have been like a face value on the policy was like $20,000, something like that. At the end of the day, she only got $400. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know what? Just keep the money. I won't even tell anybody because there's 5 of us. So it's like, I'm gonna be arguing over $80. So I said, the fact she had you on there, whatever. I said, just keep the money. I wasn't in any way. Yeah, no, because it wasn't. It wasn't. Obviously, I didn't need it, but again, I just don't get that way when it comes to money, even if it was say $10,000 or whatever. And now let's say if my sister really needed something, I have she needed some major things or whatever. I could have maybe suggested, even if we did get a split, I said, look, I'll give my share to you because I understand sort of the situation that you're in. You can use the money again, but I was never going to let money be something that was going to sort of break the bonds with anybody. I mean, I here keep the money. If that's the thing, that's not enough to get me motivated to certainly start acting in ways that is selfish towards everybody else. I'm just not wired that way. And for the fact that I guess because I never grew up with money, that was just never going to be a motivator for me. So yeah, I mean, it is certainly a situation that seems to be a lot more prevalent than we realize. So I got some slides. I was just sort of bring these up, just kind of talk about this a little bit, just in looking, at some information on the topic itself. So one of the things I saw was, different articles that I found, Medium magazine. First of all, when we talk about toxic families, like what is defined as that. And so this article at Medium talks about these different ideas. Now, I must admit, I never heard of the word enmeshment until I saw this. So they even defined it in the article, so I have it here. So enmeshment is a description of a relationship between two or more people in which personal boundaries are permeable and hazy. This happens on an emotional level in which two people feel each other's emotions, or when one family member has an emotional upswing and the other one does as well. So, certainly I never heard that word before. Maybe the other ones, though, seem pretty self-explanatory. We talked about divorce again, what that does certainly to families over time. Abandonment, self-sabotage, stagnation, indecisiveness, constant criticism. Now, again, I don't know if you didn't have a brother or what have you, but I'm sure a lot of folks grow up where you got teased, especially if you were the youngest. You got teased, you got picked on, you were called names or whatever, or the brothers got into fights, or the sisters went into fights, throwing comb at each other, whatnot. So I guess, do you think that there's like a healthy level of discord that is actually healthy for families. If you had a big brother or little brother, would you be like beating him up all the time? Or if your big brother was beating on you all the time? I mean, is that something that you think is there a healthy way that is managed, or do you think all those kind of things could just lead to problems down the road?
I have a hard time answering that because I don't have a brother.
Yeah.
From what I have seen over the years, like we have a friend, a family friend, her my mom's best friend. She had two boys, Angelo and Jerry. Jerry's the oldest, Angelo's small. They got into it pretty bad, dude. A couple times they put each other through a fucking wall. And like this, how bad they got in fights. It depends, really. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it could be bad. Like, that's a weird conversation to have and a hard conversation to have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it depends how far you take it. I'm gonna say,
yeah.
Like one of my best friends in Greece, George. He has an older brother, and he got beat up, smacked around, fucked around, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're great. Some of them not. It really depends.
Yeah, like is there, as long as you have certain ingredients there, like if the love is there, or if the, we always heard that thing is like, look, I'm your brother, I can beat you up anytime I want, but if anybody messes with you, I'm beating them up. It's almost like they show their love for you in that when they say only I can beat you up. It's almost like a sign of love. It doesn't feel so in the moment, but it's like, yeah. But when someone's on you and then you see those dogs, it's like, oh man, my brother really does care about your son.
I know you're too old to remember the show. Boy Meets World is a great example.
I remember the show. Yeah, I watched.
Okay, so Cody got used to get picked on a lot. His big brother, Matt, I think it was Matthew or something like that. He literally was gonna fuck somebody up at one point.
Yeah.
At one time, it was his best friend was, screwing him behind his back. He goes like, "Yo," and Cody had to get in the middle of that. So in that case, yeah, I definitely would support that. You know what I'm saying? It's really a hard situation. I think it's kind of normal for brothers to fight, and to get a little physical at times.
Yeah,
but it can't go too far either.
Yeah, it's definitely a delicate dance that how that stuff starts, and again, sometimes it could be one more insult too many, one more punch too many, or one punch that's a little bit too hard, and it can go from again that sort of healthy. I mean, we've seen the animal kingdom, right? I mean, you got the tiger cubs or whatever, they're kind of going at it or whatnot, but all that's kind of part of you're kind of building each other up. Or the idea of, saying, you need to get toughened up, or if you have a lot of brothers or whatever, they're supposed to toughen you up. So when you go out there, it's like no one should mess with you, that kind of thing. But I guess there's a purpose behind it. But again, taken too far, it can really get, it can really lead to some bad feelings. But again, this even goes back to the Bible. I mean, certainly Joseph was sold into slavery by his 12 brothers because he was a little bit too full of himself. You know what I mean? So again,
great example.
That was a dysfunctional family also.
When I had the Christ school, I had a couple brothers in there, and they were going at it. And one time they went too far. To be honest with you, this is before headgear, so you had to use them. I literally took them by the hair, and I went, "Kung!" and banged their heads together. And like, are you guys good now? And like, both they literally started rubbing their heads. Like, why did you do that? I'm like, because you guys are hitting each other way too hard. Do you want me to hit you a little more? Maybe you see how you guys like it? Because I was hitting them together. Literally, I was taking their heads and banging them together like the monkey with the drum set. That's what I was doing. Yeah, and their mother and father was literally looking and laughing and they came in. I told them in my dojo, I am king in there. I will control everything. I'm God in there too. You do not fucking step foot on my floor because I will come after you next. And they go, fine, as long as they walk away. Okay, we have a perfect agreement then. I'm like, here you go. Boing! There you go. That works. Yeah. Like, sometimes you gotta put two heads together and make them stop thinking with the stupid shit they're doing.
Yeah. It's no, and it seems like the issue seems to be growing. Again, there's no hard research on this. There've been a couple studies certainly that have been raised. Here's one. This is a counseling site, McNulty. So they had cited some studies that came out, one back in 2019 by this publisher, Narani. The same person had an article in Forbes magazine. Said according to recent statistics, 70 to 80% of Americans consider their families dysfunctional. It has been proven that family connections are fundamental to our emotional and psychological well-being. Then you have another citing by Reed, as pointed out in 2021. Some characteristics of dysfunctional and toxic people may include acting harsh and critical, not showing concern for your feelings or needs, calling you derogatory names. Again, kind of always grew up with that. Refusing to compromise with you on anything, always having to be right, making unfair demands on you, not taking responsibility for their actions, blaming others, rarely saying sorry for something they have done, guilting or lying to get their way, and manipulating or taking advantage of you to gain control to get what they want. So yeah, I mean, these are all things, if they're unchecked, that can certainly lead to problems. And it can happen at any level in relationship. I mean, parents can do this to children. I mean, yes, you could say, yeah, they're your children, but I think there's healthy boundaries there that we have to have with our children, especially as they age. That there's responsibilities that, how I treated my kids at 5 is very different how I treated them at 15, and now I got a 25-year-old. So, so again, understanding the stages, how I deal with them, how I interact with them. I think the one thing that I'm most happy about is that for mostly, my wife is too, but I think we've been able to adjust. We talked about that on your show on Thursday night, this idea of adapt, improvise, and solution and conquer. At the different stages of life, we kind of set, okay, when you become this age, we have a new way of doing things. So like I said on another show, when they became 16, we told them right then, okay, so we're not buying things for you the way we once did. So at 16, you can get, you guys can get work. You can get a job at 16. They all worked in fast food. They all worked in different capacities. They work at daycare centers. They worked in, different capacities. So their working life, but it was like, look, we'll give you enough money so you can get a pair of Skechers sneakers. So I don't know what that was at the time, say like $50. If you want the $125 Nike Air Force Ones, you're going to have to work for the rest of that. So, but that was like strategic at every age. So when each daughter turned 16, we were able to kind of flip the terms in terms of how we dealt with them at that time, giving them much more responsibility over the things that they wanted. And so, so again, we weren't going to, so again, the ability to change as they developed over time, I think is certainly something that was very different, certainly from how I was raised. And my wife also. And again, she could be a little more old school than I am. But again, that's also why it's important that our relationship has been good, that we can talk about, if we are at odds at anything in terms of how to handle a situation with them, for us to be able to come to consensus in terms of, what, this is the right way to do it. Or sometimes if I think my wife is doing too much, I can say, you need to pull back off of this. She'll talk their ears off. Me, I may say something 2, maybe 3 times. After that, you're going to be subject to the consequences of your actions. She'll just keep beating it into them until she thinks they get it. But all it does, it kind of just repels them away. So sometimes I've had to tell my wife, you need to pull back off that. You stated your point. You made your point. And you're just going to have to just wipe your hands of it and let them deal with the consequences of their actions. And so I think we've been able to sort of maintain sort of a healthy way of doing things, because at every stage of their growth and development, we've been able to change, how we engaged. And so that's always been a big thing. But yeah, I just want to cite from the Garani, again, this person wrote an article in Forbes. So the idea of, again, what does having a real family even mean? So again, consider the findings. 10% of mothers are currently estranged from at least one adult child. 40% of participants have experienced family estrangement at some point. 34% of children are living today with an unmarried parent, up from just 9% in 1960 and 19% in 1980. And so, this idea also we're talking about again, the sort of nuclear family. What's happened to that? The fact that divorce has become much more of an option for people. That you have more people growing in these situations where they have this estrangement, and on top of that, issues around the estrangement haven't really been dealt with. Because again, especially when you're the couple, like did your dad or your mom ever come to you and ask, son, like, Pete, how you feeling about us not being together? Are you okay with it? Or years later you might have had it, like, I think your dad explained to you later on what was going on, why him and your mom split. But at the time things were going on, was there any kind of engagement with you in terms of the situation, or it was like, shut up, this is adult business, mind your business? Was it more like that?
They didn't ask me, they didn't tell me, they didn't say shut the fuck up, yeah, business, none of that stuff. Never.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's the divorce itself or the separation itself is going to have certain consequences to it. But then again, when you don't look after those who are most vulnerable, like I said, again, the children are the ones that are oftentimes sort of left out, and they're the ones who, pay a price one way or another, even in their own ability or inability to form healthy relationships in the future. Like you were saying earlier, I mean, a lot of people today are basically scared of marriage because of the fears of, well, look, if it happened to my parents, it could happen to me. And so why even go down that route? Why risk half of what I have for someone who I may, I got a 50-50 chance of making it with? And so again, certainly these things, certainly can impact well down the road. But I also find the sibling issues also troubling in that. And again, I know you haven't had that experience, but I know one thing that, again, my girls, they rival, they bicker, they fight, they have, certainly they're very different individuals. So certainly there's going to be a lot of quarreling, and there's a lot of, immaturity that, certainly that comes from them. But I think one thing, though, that I tried to do to the best of my ability, I never compared them. So in other words, I never gave, my wife and I, we never gave an opportunity for one to feel like, oh, they do it, they love them more than me, or they care more about their issues than mine, or something to that effect. Like I said, the rules have been fair the entire time. Where it looked like it was dysfunctional was because the age. So like my youngest one, she was always complaining that the older ones got stuff that she didn't, and I always had to tell her, well, how old are you again? And how old were they when they got their stuff? So look, when you turn 12, you get a phone. Now this was just before smartphones were just starting to come out. So you got the flip phone from Verizon or whatever. That's what you're getting. It took a minute before they got iPhones. But again, that was part of the progression. But because, they kind of did everything together, she just thought that she was just entitled to get everything that they got. And so I always had to kind of level set. It's like, look, when your turn is up, you're going to get what they, and probably, especially with technology, you're probably going to have better what they had at the time when they had it. But as far as the comparison thing, I'm fortunate in that we never compared to doing, why can't you do like the way your sister does? We tried our best to treat our daughters as the individuals that they are. Like I said, they're all very different. There's very little about them that is similar. And we've tried to raise them that way, in those ways. So yeah, but so the sibling thing, go for it.
You mentioned this earlier. Did you girls ever get physical yet to the point like you had to rip them apart? Like, yo, you guys need to chill the fuck out.
Not that I saw. There were a couple times there might have been a push or a shove here and there, but the idea, let me just address this point. Yeah, was his father's favorite. Again, no favoritism. So again, this is just part of parents oftentimes, you can cause some of your dysfunction by, again, you don't necessarily treat everybody the same, but you treat everybody fairly. And so when you have favorites or show favoritism towards one over the other, yeah, that is a recipe for disaster. And that's just one thing we just never did. We had standards that we had for them. There's privileges that you get at certain ages and whatnot. We never favored one over the other. We did, we treated every one of them as an individual. But absolutely, that's so. Like I said, I was saying earlier. I mean, the Bible is full of this. Go all the way back, not just about Joseph, but look at the dysfunction between Abraham and Sarah and the mistress Hagar that they brought in, and then the tension between Isaac and Ishmael. Look at that, and then Joseph gets married. He's got two wives, and he's got two handmaidens. Those 12 kids came out of those 4 women. Yeah, you're going to cause some dysfunction when you have that and then play favorites on top of that. So again, if anything, it's a morality tale in terms of how not to be a parent, even though people want to credit them as being the father of the nations and all that kind of stuff. But again, dysfunction from the onset. And so, when you do these things, you're going to have these kind of situations that are going to come up. But as far as physical, no, more verbal. I think more so than anything. And obviously women, they can do a lot more damage with their mouths than they can ever do physically. So the fact that they were doing it to one another is certainly something that, we always had to check on. But I was never always here for that. And right now they seem to be at least in a fairly healthy state. Does it get tense sometimes? Yeah, because of the intense personalities that they have. They're always going to have these blow-ups. But, the best you can do is just, again, you can manage that as much as possible. But again, having a fair set of rules and standards by which you go by helps to certainly alleviate or at least to minimize a lot of that those potential issues.
Okay. They kind of answered my question in a way.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, so again, unfortunately, in the chat earlier, I know we had Alexis from Texas. She talked about recently, she said, I recently, within the last 6 months, cut off my dad and my younger sister. Again, unfortunate. Now, again, I'm not going to say that sometimes it's not going to be necessary, that when people are disrespecting you to a certain level where, again, a healthy relationship cannot take place. Because, again, relationship requires both participants to be involved. You can forgive somebody and just kind of let some stuff go in that it doesn't necessarily affect how you go about things. But, in order to have a relationship, you got to have willing partners. You just can't be with somebody or just say, look, we're good when we're not good. And at the root causes of why you're not good or not being addressed. That's why I'm saying that stuff that happened with my sister, it, like I said, that stuff could have got squashed a long time ago. But she was holding on to something that I barely remembered what the situation was. And I was just saying, it was like, wow, so, but for me, my thing was, I just want us to be good, especially this was just after my dad died. And I was just telling him, look, any beef we got, let's just put this on the table now. Let's just squash this. We just squash this stuff. So it doesn't fester. So as far as I'm concerned, even though I grew up with dysfunction, again, my brother and I, my brother gave me a swollen eye. We were teenagers. I had a big old lump over my eye, and I had to go to school the next day because we got into this thing. He was much bigger and stronger. Like I said, I was like Steve Rogers, so I couldn't fight. I couldn't do a lot of things back then. He was like the basketball star, and he had certain things going on. And again, it was just a matter of again, he's an adult at the time, and I'm a teenager, and we're still living in the same room. Not that we had separate rooms, in the same room. So obviously, some of this stemming from his maybe own frustration of not being where he needed to be. Me coming into my own, trying to think for myself and not be necessarily bullied by him, or him just thinking he just walk over me. And so yeah, we've had, so I've gotten into fisticuffs with my brother. That I barely think about those days now because again, part of it is also where I am, as a person. That there's just certain things that I just don't hold on to, and just seeing just how my life has evolved and how I've changed as a person. Yeah, I mean, it's not worth it's not worth holding on to. But for like I said, for other siblings, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that really wasn't until my dad died, and I didn't realize how bad it was. Because also understand, I'm also the next person up is my brother, and he's 6.5 years older than me. And the siblings are older than still. So it's like there was a lot of conversations and situations because I didn't grow up with them. I grew up mostly with my mom until about 14 years old that I wasn't aware of. Mm-hmm. And a lot of this stuff kind of came out around the funeral time. And then I was, sort of facing it and just realizing, wow, they're not talking. What? They're not, how long has it been since they communicated? So there was just a lot of things that were going on. It's like, and you would hope that at the funeral, you would hope that, again, a lot of things get squashed. And sometimes it's just an opportunity where just stuff just comes out.
See, here's my thing with this. Is when you get a scruffle or something happened in the past, I laugh at it at some point. You know what I'm saying? But like this is what I'm going through. I'm not willing to budge, and they're not willing to budge at this point. So who's willing to open the first door to say, hey, let's talk about this? But also, who's willing to forgive who at that point? Somebody needs to forgive somebody to move on from that situation.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any pushback, please, I'm all yours.
No, I mean, like I said, it takes two to tango. We've all kind of.
I'm not tangling with you, bro.
It takes two to. I mean, you both have to be of a mindset that you want to let some things go, and forgive whatever it is, and you can't do that with one person, or at least if the person doesn't even acknowledge. And that's another thing. I think that's part of it is, sometimes the hard part in these things is that a person either doesn't see or they don't acknowledge their part in whatever it is that they're, that they can still be defensive. You lay all the facts and how things went down. Like I said, when my sister brought it to my attention, what she was mad at me about, I checked it right there and I explained situation, what was going on at the time. It was not intentional, this and that. And, and again, I acknowledged what it was she was thinking or feeling at the time. Whether it was right or wrong, I still acknowledged it. But the hardest part is when you have people who will not acknowledge their part in whatever the situation is. They will defend their parts to the end. And again, I'm asking and I'm like, and to what end is that is? So
that's
again,
the question now.
Yeah.
How far are you going to push? I'm sorry to cut you off. How far are you going to push your whatever they say we're arguing about? Mountain Dew is better than Diet Mountain Dew. Stupid question. You're arguing about that goddamn thing. Like, what does it matter what you're arguing? Let's move on from that. Right. People hold grudges so much.
Well, it's just like
make a difference.
Yeah. But you got to get to the root though. Because the argument over the Mountain Dew or the argument over the classic one is like, okay, when a husband and wife fight over the seat being left up, I think it's the stupidest argument ever created. Honestly. when I hear anybody talk about, oh, he left the toilet seat up. Unless you're a size 1 in 80 pounds, are you going to literally fall into the toilet if the seat is up or not? I just think that's stupid.
I think so, actually.
But it's ridiculous. But really at play might be something else. So again, unless you're willing to get down to the root of what the issue is, because when you're pissed off at somebody, it doesn't matter what the trigger is to piss you off. You're just on edge. It could be someone's chewing. It could be someone snoring. It could be whatever it is. because you haven't really gotten down to the issue of what's happening. And so all these arguments are really just something I think at the root that you have to deal with. And people are not dealing with it. That true communication has to get to the what's real. Shout out to R Payne being in the building tonight. I do want to address this question. How do you define cutoff? There's layers to it, but again, even in the build up to the build up to the dysfunction, I think there's layers to it.
And it is.
And you add layers the longer things don't get addressed. So again, just like in marriage, I think you have to have, I mean, one thing my wife and I, we had to do over time. We had to cut down the period of inactivity, the period where we didn't talk. Now, again, I am a classic cave dweller, right? Remember that Men from Mars and Women from Venus, men are cave dwellers. I go into my cave, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be in the same room with you. Don't talk to me. Yeah. I just go into my cave, man. I just leave me alone. But I had to shorten that time from, I mean, it could be up to a couple weeks. And I had to narrow that down over time to where it's, again, I try to live, again, by that mandate, never let the sun go down.
Mm-hmm.
But without at least addressing the issue. Now, we may not be good for another day or two, but at least getting the issue on the table of what it is, why you pissed me off, what you said or what you did or what you didn't do, and why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And again, sometimes the frustrating thing was it was the defense. You're still defending the action. You can't understand it. So again, another thing that our marriage was lacking early on was the sense of empathy. I don't have to agree with how you're feeling, but at least I have to acknowledge what you're feeling. And that was something that it took us years to develop that. To now, at least she can see what I'm saying. And then therefore acknowledge that. So, and that did a lot in as far as us being able to reconcile and put things back together when she started recognizing the issue. So go ahead, but I want to address this question head on. What R Payne's talking about.
So the first thing is, I'm surprised you said piss because you're Mr. Clean doesn't say anything bad. I'm
piss is profane.
It is actually.
Is it? I had no idea.
Yeah, I used to get in trouble in school when I used to say it's pissing me off. Like, all right, $1 to start jar. Like, are you goddamn kidding me? $1? Like, what if I said the F word? Like, that's $5. Like, whoa. Like, but it is layers. You're 100% right. This build-up with my cousin has been going on for years. Mm-hmm. And everybody followed him. He's the head of the goddamn fucking family. It's not. So it was always like, you're stupid. You're an idiot, screaming at me. And I never said anything, Paul. I'll be honest with you. Because my parents for years and years and years had him on his high goddamn fucking pussy pedestal. And I was always down on the dirt. Oh, look at your cousin. Why can't you be more like your cousin? Why couldn't it be more like this?
So they did, like I said, so they did the comparison thing. So all the things that we talk about, what leads to sibling or relational rivalries, the comparison, the favoritism. Again, those are things that, again, it's poison.
Yeah. Eventually I snapped one day and I fucking said something to him like, yo, I am done. I think I've done a really good job with my disability, with everything against me going 2 different countries. I did a great fucking job overall because you guys didn't fucking help me. I went to him. Mm-hmm. You didn't sit down and do homework with me. You didn't you didn't help me read my books. They didn't say a word. And it had things. I got older, and I said something to my cousin one day. I'm like, "Yo, I'm done. And you compare me. Everybody's comparing me to you because guess what? You buy used fucking high-end cars. I buy one brand new car, and I'm really happy with it." And he did not fucking like that one bit, Paul. And I didn't give a shit. Like, yeah, I smoke cigarettes. I smoke cigars. But I'm not a fucking pothead. I went to him. I'm not the one who's going out to Jersey Shore and trying to get ecstasy just because he has a boring night. So I drink a few beers here and there. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not driving. I'm not killing anybody. This is my daily basic routine. I go to work. I come home. Try to make gym time. I play a little video games, and that's it. And I stream. So I'm a horrible fucking person to them. But recently, after the last 5 years, they realized what kind of son they fucking have. Even my mother has cried. Says, I put a lot of pressure on you. I never realized it. Like, but don't need to cry. It's fine. I'll do it on a heartbeat over and over.
But hang on. But pause. What did that do anything for you though? 'Cause I think that's important. I think that's important. Like up to that point, she never acknowledged or recognized. If anything, she was trying to put that person ahead of you. So the fact that she came to the conclusion to say that, hey, I did these things to you, that didn't do anything for you.
It made me actually. It felt like this weight came off my shoulders finally a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a lot, but something came off it.
Well, yeah. But as I said, acknowledgement, recognition, taking accountability for your part in whatever the outcome is. All those are keys. If you're going to try to restore or reconcile or improve the quality of your relationship, those things have to be there. But there's so many people who won't get there and just let things just linger on or let things die off. So, but as far as our pain, as far as this idea of cutting off, like you said, I agree with, there are layers. Cutting off may be, again, only dealing with them on official matters. So only when it comes to family stuff, if it's mom, if it's dad, if it's like, hey, I need this, I need that from you, or whatever. Hey, mom, we come together, we got to discuss some things. Hey, this is what mom's going through. I did a lot of that, certainly in my mom's last days, keeping the family informed in terms of health conditions, making sure that they were informed on all stages of her life, keeping engaged, especially for the ones who are out of the state. So yeah, now will we get on the phone and chat, and have like a long conversation? Maybe every once in a while. But it wasn't something where we weren't like super close because again, in part, we did not grow up together. Like I said, the fact that I'm 6.5 years older, they had a whole life before basically I came around. And again, the fact that I grew up separate from them, they only remember when I was very young. I'm talking like 3, 4, I don't even think 5 years old. About 5 years old, we were really split. I really didn't have an interface with them until my teenage years. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so sometimes it's going to be that you just deal. It's like a business thing. Anything with the family, hey, I'm all in. I don't care what you said or what you did or whatever. Whatever. This is about mom and dad. So I need you to have this information. Now, what you do with it is on you. But I have a responsibility. And then, keep in mind, I'm the youngest. In traditional family, the oldest is supposed to be the one who's responsible for everybody. But in this case, leadership got transferred to me, part of it out of people just exiting themselves out of the responsibility. Basically saying, look, I don't want it. Or I can't be here to do it. Well, I just don't have the capacity to do it. So I almost became the leader by default. But then once it got established that, yeah, I'm the guy. Then when it came to there, and again, especially when my father passed, I made it almost like a vow to myself that I will be as good a sibling as I can be to my other siblings, regardless of what feelings I might have had, what I had for my brother. At the time, I was just going to be just a great sibling to them, out of respect for my dad. And I've been able to pull that off. I've been able to earn, in a lot of respects, their trust in terms of making decisions, especially when it came to my mom. And so we were able to do that. But again, so there's a business. Some you just stop talking to. If you don't think, obviously, if you can't be in the same room with them without an argument popping off, then yeah, but that would be in any situation. If you husband and wife, if y'all can't be in the same room without starting an argument, then yeah, y'all need to be separate for a while. But I don't think for me though, where I don't think cutoff is And again, not everyone's going to agree with me on this. I don't think cutoff would be to this point where if God forbid something happened to them and I had an ability to step in and be of service to that situation, that I wouldn't do it. I mean, you would have to be talking about some unspeakable things in order for that not to happen. So if I was on bad terms with my sister or my brother, and let's say they died, I would still make sure that they got a proper burial. Same thing. My mom, again, the relationship I had with my mom over the years was such where I just, for a lot, it would have took a lot of people out. It took me a long time to get over a lot of that dysfunction. But there was no way I was not going to make sure that she was cared for in her latter years and that she didn't get what she, expected when it came to burial and all those things. I was going to make sure that was taken care of. So again, my relationship with my mom, it wasn't intimate. It was very businesslike. So again, when it came to doctor's visits, when it came to social services, when it came to all matters, I was her representative. I was her representative payee. I was her power of attorney. I was all those things. And regardless of what angst I might have had based on the relationship I had with her growing up, I was going to do those things in part because of my religious faith. So again, scripture says, honor your mother and father, so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God has given you. Didn't say you had to like them.
Good point.
But I still had to honor them. So I was gonna be about the business of honoring them, though I didn't have to sit down. I don't drink, but I didn't have the proverbial sit down and have a beer with my dad in order to make sure he was taken care of, that his affairs weren't in order. So again, it would have to be something like to such an egregious point to talk about no contact, no connection. Even when they pass, it's like, look, they're dead to me. To get to that level of separation, for me personally. Now, again, for some people, you may have it that bad. Your parents may have done something to you that egregious, and you just can't bring yourself to come to that conclusion. So again, I'm not judging anybody. How you deal with, I'm not saying, yeah, you need to go call your mama up and make up with her, whatever. What if mom treated you badly? If anything, you still need to do the work on your own sanity.
It's funny you say that, Paul, because a few years ago, I don't know if you remember when we first met, I was taking therapy. So even my therapist said, like, the way your parents are treating you over the years, it was actually hurting you than trying to make you better. So it took time for me. And I'm still not 100% there. At least with my father, I'm not. With my mother, I have good moments and bad moments. It depends if we're trying to kill each other or not. That's a whole different conversation. But it took a third party who did not even know me. I'm not saying she was the greatest therapist in the world. I will say that. But she was able to recognize one of my issues the way I am. Is the way my father treated me over the years. Putting other people in front of me and everything. And now they're finally putting me up front. I'm like, yeah. Maybe 39 years too late, but I'll accept it. Because I don't hold grudges. I forgive people. Because doesn't the Bible say we need to forgive everybody?
Oh, absolutely. But it's hard. It's hard to forgive, certainly when you're in the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And course. Definitely if you don't think you're winning. I think one thing I think that's kind of common with the both of us, in a lot of ways, when we grew up, we were kind of last. Or we were looked at as last. But now in this time, given time, it seems like we kind of came out on front. So, yeah, it's a little easier to forgive when you won. But what if you were position where you are? What if you were strung out? What if you had addictions? And I mean, you may have addictions now with cigarettes and everything. I would like you as a brother. I would like you to stop that. I'm just saying, but I mean, like the hard stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you were just doing behaviors and actions that were self-destructive.
Honestly, let's talk about that for 1 second with the drug thing. Because I have family members who do other, weed and blow and all that stuff. I never wanted to because it scared the shit out of me all my years. I'll be honest with everybody. Never wanted to even start with weed because, technically weed, they call it the gateway drug, and that scared the shit out of me. Have I tried weed? Of course I did. I'm not a fucking little angel here. Let's be straight up here, everybody. But didn't do shit to me. Didn't feel any certain way. Should I quit smoking again? Yes, you're right, Paul. Going through some stress right now. Once I get those situated, next year this time, I'll be shaking your hand at a smoke-free hand, man. And when I say something, I mean it.
I'll look forward to it.
But drugs always scare the fuck out of me. Call me a pussy. Call me whatever you want to call me. I don't give a shit. Never felt like doing it. But I'm a very few people who can say I have a clean record. Never got caught with DWI. Never did anything like that. So I think that's coolest for me.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead, finish what you're going to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You got to be in a certain position in your own personal life I can say, forgiveness is about release. It doesn't mean that your relationship is good. But I think you have to be in a certain position to do that. I just can't tell somebody, and I used to hate it when people used to say it, you just need to forgive them.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I know what the Bible says, forgive 70 times 70. Yeah, I get it. But for some people, it can take decades to get to that point. And for some people, it can take minutes. But you still got to be in position in order to do that. And I can't put a timetable because, again, I don't know your trauma. I don't know your journey. I don't know what happened. You can, if I set time with anybody, they can give me a laundry list of what their parents did to them, or what their brother did to them, or what their sister did to them, or what their grandmother did to them, what their wife did to them. I am not going to sit here and say, well, I don't care. It doesn't matter what they did. You need to get over that. I'm not going to be flippant like that. But at whatever point you decide to do that, I do think there's benefit to it. But when that's going to happen in your life, and like I said, the thing you may be faced with when we talk about, again, this idea of cutoff, it may have to be the best outcome. I mean, again, look, an amputee, sometimes the best course of action is that cutoff. If you don't want the virus to spread, if you don't want the cancer to spread or whatever, the diabetes to spread. Now, unfortunately, that's what happened with my mom towards the end. She had, she was having complications from diabetes. But then there's a problem there in that how much you going to cut. So that becomes a situation. You think you could just keep cutting off, but if you don't deal with the issues that are inside you, eventually you're going to cut yourself to death. So there has to be a reckoning inside with you in terms of how you deal with the situation, and just ghosting everybody or erasing them from your phone or from your social media or for whatever it is still may not give you the solace that you're looking for. It may feel good in the moment. It's visceral. It's like, yeah, I showed them. But you got to get to that point to say, I'm still not right. Now, what are you going to do to deal with that? And I think a lot of people miss that. The cutting off piece seems to be the most visceral at the time. It may even feel good in the time. But you're still broken. And so I would certainly encourage people to do that work. But trust me, I'm not trying to, minimize what you've been through. So that's, Jalen, my what's your thoughts on that?
Forgiving is hard. That's the hardest part for me. How can you forget somebody who's been doing that to you for years and years and years and years, and it has not stopped? And you called them out on it, like, yo, I don't appreciate you doing X, Y, and Z. How long? And they don't get it through their fucking heads. And this is what mind blows me. My parents had them, my cousin on this high pedestal. Now, West Orange, New Jersey is about an hour, 45 minutes or an hour. That's a far drive for him to come see his aunt. I'm going to repeat myself, guys. That is a far drive, 45 minutes to an hour, to come see your aunt at least once a month. That is sad. When somebody has you sets on a high pedestal, you could even drive an hour to see somebody. But you can drive an hour to go to New York and go party every night. That's not far, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a far drive by myself. But you can drive an hour to go to New York and party instead. Am I not? I can't add this up. It makes no sense to me personally.
Mm-hmm. And it may never will.
Yeah,
and it doesn't. And it doesn't have to. So, like I said, in those situations, again, there can be no chance of any kind of restoration or reconciliation. There can't be, and you got to be at peace with that. So, I want to highlight CJ's comment again. Again, I don't owe people to give them the power to break me. Yeah, I mean, if you're getting broken, no, you don't owe people that. I 100% agree with that. I can feel empathy, but I still have to do what's best for me and my mental health and my peace, Bob. Absolutely. And so, again, that cutting, as long as it gives you what is necessary in that time, I got no issue with that. Yeah, there's certain people you're going to have to cut. I'm telling my daughter now, my oldest one, before she goes to med school, all those old relationships that you have from high school, they need to end. Because the problem is with a lot of these girls, they never grew up. They still doing high school stuff. Y'all grown women. Some of y'all should be married by now. And I'm telling my daughter, it's like, look, you need to get into upper rooms, better women who are about something. Get them around some 30, 28, 29, 30-year-old women who are trying to be about something. But I mean, I'm like, y'all, but she didn't necessarily want to let go of a lot of that stuff because it's like, but I've known her for so long.
Yeah, there's a big popper.
And now my wife, now she's on this a lot more than I am. Like I said earlier, my wife, she will beat the point into their heads until they get sick of it. My thing is just watch. I say you made your point, and it just so happened that in the course of time, all these friends just fell off, because she then started to recognize and understand that, hey, these folks aren't good for me.
I'll be honest with you, Paul, and you can tell your daughter I said this, and I want you to rewind this, and hopefully she does listen to this. All my friends from high school, I talked to zero of them. I don't even bump into them in the store. Once in a blue moon, I might see a like in one of my pictures. And when they posted pictures recently, like they're still doing the same thing they were doing back in high school, sitting around, smoking a joint or cigarettes, getting drunk, doing nothing with their lives. So I upgraded, and I feel like in your life you're gonna have go through phases with your friends. Phase 1, you can be high school. Phase 2, a different type of friendship, college or whatever. Then the third phase is going to be more something else, a fourth phase and a fifth phase. I think there are going to be levels of friendship to something, who knows to what.
Yeah.
So her friends, or even my friends, your friends, whoever friends, eventually you're going to figure it out. You got to cut them off.
Yeah.
People don't grow up sometimes.
Well, some people cut themselves out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I mean, they just fall off because it's like, the behaviors that you're tolerating. But again, some people learn from wisdom, some people learn from experience, some people learn from consequence. As a father, I am not above them letting my daughters learn from consequence. I'll be there for them. Look, I'm not gonna let you ain't gonna fall. No one's gonna come messing with you. You know what I mean? But certain things, nah. I was like, that's not happening. But I gotta let them fall sometimes, and I gotta let them figure some things out. So I'm glad actually she's going outside of the country. I'm glad about that.
She would learn a lot more of that.
Yeah, so she's going to be in a new world, But again, different people. Guyana. I'm sorry, Grenada. I'm sorry, Grenada.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I said obey because it's gonna be a culture shock for her over there. Anywhere she goes, it can be a culture shock.
Let it be. And like I said, I have never been afraid to let my girls go out there and explore, see the world. Now again, nothing stupid. That's the one thing I tell them. The only thing I tell them when they go out the house, I say, what do I say? They said, don't do anything stupid. And for the most part, they have accepted and adopted that. But again, if they're going to be, from a spiritual perspective, if they're going to be what God wants them to be, then I gotta let them go. I gotta let them again go out there. But again, you train up a child in the way they should go. When they grow old, they won't depart from it. So I'm hoping what I put into them, hopefully, is going to pay dividends down the line. And it seems like it's starting to pay dividends now. Now my daughter, she's in this wedding coming up, and like I said, it looks like one of those situations where it's like it's more about the wedding than the marriage. But just in her to be able to see it. She's like, Dad, I don't want a big wedding. So she's like, you don't have to come to me about that, but I wouldn't mind a big party. We can do a party afterwards. But Dad, I don't want a big wedding. I don't want all that kind of stuff. I just want to get married. Let's just go down and let's do the simple thing.
I've been saying that shit for fucking years. Here's why I say it. One, you're wasting a lot of money for people can eat your food and just shit it out. The second reason is people want to drink your booze.
You have such an interesting way.
What's up? You like that, didn't you?
It's you could be my angry translator. See the way I said it, you like Luther. Like I don't know if you watch Key and Pool, but like I could be like Barack Obama, and you're Luther, my angry translator. So I could state it very diplomatically, and you're on the side, and you just say it the way you say it. So I just think that
you gotta be blunt, bro. You know how blunt I am. The only time I watch my mouth is my priest is there, and the second time is depends who this person I don't know about. Third time, in front of your wife, I'd probably say, when I'm at your house, I did watch my mouth. You gotta give me credit. You gotta give me credit. Even when you jump on a stream once and you had me on speaker and your wife was like, my wife's gonna go watch on mine. Was like,
yeah, we're coming back from PA. And we're listening to she looks over at me. It's like,
not PA. You were in PA. You were somewhere else.
We were coming back from PA. We were on the road.
Oh, okay.
So you were doing the show. It was Saturday night. So you were doing your Saturday night hangout show, and I think you were talking about Cobra Kai or something like that. Probably. And I'm listening into the show, just get caught up because I know I'll probably join the show later. And you're just spitting out and whatnot. She gives me this look and say, "That's Peter. I love him, but that's Peter." And she's like, okay.
Look at you. She's going, we gotta talk about your friends, hon. She's like, baby.
Right, well, she trusts my judgment though. She's like, okay, well, he's friends with you, then that's good. So she recognizes I'm a good judge of character. So I think
and she met me now, so she knows that
didn't last too long. That didn't last too long. But with all of them, I don't care the associations that you belong to. Like I said, there's certain places that you can't bring everybody with you. And even when it comes to your mental health, like what CJ was talking about earlier on about your mental health, you can't put a premium on that. And if people are going to be a disturbance to that, then again, but like I said, I would still say cutting off those still isn't healing, though. You know what I mean? It's like you could do the
I'll be
emergency.
honest with you, Paul.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. There are moments that I do miss my cousins. There are some moments like when I used to have like a weekend, I'm off, take a drive, 45 minutes or an hour. I'm in his house, hang out for a day, shoot back home, walk dogs, and jump onto the stream. Because back then I wasn't doing this stuff. I know they'll be my biggest supporters, in there on everything. Or they could be making fun of me behind my back. One of the two things, like they usually do.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go back into that situation that I know is going to be toxic for me.
And you don't.
They stay there, I stay my way, and call it a day.
And sometimes again, call it detente, call it you guys y'all just be in your same lanes. And again, as long as you can function and be your best self in that situation, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
So again, I would never force somebody to say, okay, you need to go and make up with that person. Even now, it's to the point where, look, with my siblings, it's mostly like if they need me for anything, they got me. It's one, I'd say two, I'm really close with, where it's like, it's weird. It's like one of those relationships, like we don't talk often, but when we talk, we talk. You know what I mean? Like I may call my oldest sister, I may call her like once a year, or we may have a combo like once a year. But when we get into it, it's just like, I got friends like that. There's some friends I may talk to maybe a couple times a year. But it's like, but when we talk, it's like we never hung up the phone, or we kept the conversation going from the last time we were on the phone. But then there's people who you hang out with like all the time, buddy stuff, and y'all never had even one substantive conversation. Because it's not about the person, it's about the activity or whatever you're doing. There's a difference between having a friend and having a buddy. I see a lot of people with a lot of buddies, very few friends. In fact, I think, generally speaking, I think your friendship circle should be small. If you told me I have dozens of friends, I don't believe you have any friends.
I agree.
I truly believe that. I think, really your friendship circle, like those, you talk about your ride or dies, you talk about those kind of people, it shouldn't be no more than one hand, in my view. Now, again, if you got that special like that, then, you're very fortunate.
I told you this before, like a few people I call, like I'll be like this at your house, coming out. Hey, where the fuck with you, bro? I gotta come do Kamehameha. Like, I gotta be honest with you, if you're in my circle, you're getting this fucking thing out of you. So a few people, like you're one of them. CQ's definitely one of them. My King, my boy George, my boy Dimitri. There's only a few I can name. I can literally count with two hands all my friends. I can literally say, somebody fucks with you, well, you're gonna fuck with me very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know we were joking with you when you had your stalker, but if you really had a stalker, I told you I'm one phone call away. Just call me, I'll show up. Like,
at this point, I may have to demote them from stalker to secret admirer. So I think I'm gonna demote the DEFCON scale. I'm gonna take it from DEFCON 4 to DEFCON 2. I'm not gonna have it. I'm not gonna have that high. I would just say just an admirer.
No shooting guns for you yet?
No, I don't think so. Now, if I was getting like headless rabbits and stuff like that, then yeah, I'd say that'd be.
You know what's gonna happen now? The next show you're gonna do, they're gonna.
Then we'll see. Now we're gonna see. That's how we're gonna draw the stalker out. So right? We're gonna draw. So again, we're gonna know who it is. I'm gonna draw them out.
Paul,
I'm gonna draw them out in the field.
Where you live.
I'm gonna draw them out in the open, and then we're gonna drown them.
And the only thing that would be kind of funny is how many probably from the BMU family is actually playing a bad joke on you. That'd be hilarious. It was.
I'll check the IP addresses where the stuff is coming from, but
I don't think you're that smart.
But see, I can't give all my stuff away. But just saying. but yeah, man. I mean, it's yeah. So I mean, yeah. I think again the absolute cutoff of a person. I'm good with it as long as you're better off. You're whole. I mean, it's, you know, it's to me, because it's not enough just to stop the bleeding. You got to heal. And there's a lot of people who have stopped the bleeding, but they're not whole. Now, again, that could be a spiritual exercise, you know, certainly as Christians, you know, the idea of being, there's a difference between being healed and being, being made whole. Because wholeness, I think, is a total being. It's a mental, physical, spiritual thing that a person has to, come to. And again, that takes time and that takes intention when you do those things. But yeah, definitely stop the bleeding. If you're getting, you know, constantly cut it off. But don't neglect the work or think that it's over when you do that cutoff. Because again, especially if you've given a lot of yourself, again, these relationships that were so intimate at certain times, and now you just feel a certain way or whatever about that person. You know, it's just not a good place to be in. And you can see it and you can feel it in the people. Yes, the people they're buried. They're literally dead and buried. But you're not whole. And I can feel it when you're talking. It's in your voice. It's in your countenance. It's like, bro, or sis, you're just not there. And so that's the piece that I just don't want people, you know, just running to jump to that conclusion, because it's, you know, it says when you cut them off, let them know first, or you ghost them. In terms of, I would say to me, that's a lose-lose situation. It's like breaking up with somebody, right? You can never win in that situation. If you break up with somebody via text, they're going to be upset because it's like, you couldn't have the decency to do it to me in person. And if you're in person, you could be like, look, you could have just texted me that. You didn't have to, you know, set up this thing or whatever. You could have just texted me and been over. I think that's a lose-lose. I don't think there's any proper way to do it. But again, whatever you decide to do, you got to be good with the decision that you make. And again, you should know the person enough. This shouldn't be rocket science to anybody. You know the reaction. If you were one of those girls, which you had a tendency to do, which I told you need to stop, you be with these wild and violent women, crazy women. So you already know. Don't look at me like that. You admitted this yourself on multiple shows. But if you know that woman gonna be cray-cray when you try to break up with her, then it may not be the best thing.
I'll have you do it for me. Simple.
Person. I ain't doing nah. You got that line, bro. That line, bro. Nah. No. You got yourself in that situation, bro. I'm out of seat now, especially if I said, Luke, pull up. If I told you to pull out of that situation, you go in there, man. I'm like, look, you guys to eat that one.
Oh, seriously, you're right. You know, that's why I kind of like took a step back from who I'm dating, who I'm not dating. I hit the brakes hard. And I'm focused on some other things right now than dating. Simple, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Lady Bo, hope I answer your question. Like I said, I just don't think there is a I don't think there is a good time. Now, this one here, I don't understand the context. So when a real one comes, you shouldn't push them. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. Are you talking about when you meet someone good? So if you can just give me a little more context on that, I appreciate it. Shout out to, again, CJ. Thank you for being here tonight. Again, $5 super chat. Folks you communicate with weekly, have a deeper connection with you than folks you talk to weekly is incredibly true. Also, I have crazy. Yeah. It's like I can go weeks but it's like we just pick up. There's a connection. There's a real relationship. Now, some people call that soulmates and all that. I don't get that deep into it, but yeah, it's just people who when you vibe with like that, again, because some of these people are out of the country, some guys are military, some guys are in situations where they're like, you can't have that time doesn't. But again, if your true friends are also the ones that allow you to go away. Like we talk about this with, let's say, can you have can you be married and have friends of the opposite sex sort of thing? If I'm your friend, and let's say if I had a female friend before I was married, if she got married, I already know my role is going to be very limited. It's like, nah, you need to be with your husband. If you still calling me up like you used to when we were friends or whatnot, 10 o'clock at night or whatnot, that needs to stop. And I'm going to tell you that as your friend, that needs to. So I need to be cut off to a large extent because you're a friend of mine. Because I recognize the world that you're going into. And I can't be a part of that world that you're in. Go build your nest with and become one with the person that you're with. And if we do get together, it's got to be in a very public setting. You know, if you have a cookout or something like that, hopefully I'm with somebody at that time. And yeah, you want to invite us over for the cookout or the, whatever it is that you're doing or whatever, fine. Sure, I'll show up. But I don't need to be talking to you 10, 11 o'clock at night. What you call me for? I'm going to tell you that when I tell it to you.
I give a good example.
Yeah.
Paul, like I have, King Smith, for example. I have Michelle's number. I only reached out to her one time because he was going through hardship. I wanted to make sure that my boy is okay. You know what I'm saying? Except that I don't have to reach out to her. She reached out to me once before that too. She was asking me about, if she wanted to get him a beer product as a Christmas present. And I recommend a couple companies. That's it. That's simple as it is. If you're married, I'm okay being, friends with, the husband and wife kind of thing. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with they give me a call. But I keep my distance far from her and more with him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like I said, for the health of everybody involved, it's just better off. I mean, so again, cut off can be a positive thing as long as, again, are you whole? And so, yeah, shout out to the boy. Yeah, absolutely, you're supposed to. And so, so with that, but it's unfortunate. And again, we're not talking about just an American thing, like I said, especially I would think it'd be harder, at least from my observation, this stuff seems to be harder or at least different in other cultures, like especially like long sort of traditional cultures. Because again, you got other things to worry about, right? In African cultures, you got whether or not you're the firstborn son, you got tribal stuff you got to deal with. In Indian culture, you got caste systems that you got to deal with. I mean, there's so many expectations that are put upon people when it comes to what that society demands of you and the cutoff there. Now, you want to talk about cutoff. If you marry outside the culture, you're cut off. I mean, that's just, something that people aren't willing to accept, at least until the kids come around. I've seen that too, where, your parents can be mad at you if you're an Asian Indian or whatever. Parents will be real mad. But when those grandbabies come around, then that may help to soften the blow a little bit, because obviously they want to see the grandkids. But that's why, as a Greek, I'm just curious, again, that Greek culture, how that works. Now, is there something in Greek culture, like, with the Italians, they have, like, you see in the mom movies, they give you that kiss, and that kiss is like kind of like the kiss of death. It's like, I'm dead to you right now. I mean, do traditionally, or at least generally, Greeks are prone to like, you screw me once, it's like I'm dead to you or whatever. Is that something that's typical in Greek culture? Yeah. Where you don't tolerate that, like in Italian culture or something? Is that something that's like prevalent?
So if you piss somebody off in the Greek culture bad enough, it's worse than a kiss of death. It is, you're already dead. I've seen Greek people literally pissing, not literally, of course, but want to piss on the corpse. That's how bad it is. If you burn them so bad to the point they want to do that, don't ever speak to them again. It's better off to never speak to them again. It's rare, really rare occasions I've seen people forgive each other. Women are the worst. Like, obviously, everybody's going to say here, I know the comments go, what do you mean women's the worst? Every woman is the worst in the world. Blah, 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 blah. Greek women are the worst. Remember in a Greek fat wedding, one thing you need is earplugs. You definitely need your earplugs if you marry a Greek woman. Even with Latino one. Even Italian too. Actually, now I think about it, every woman. But anyway, the point is,
The comments by Ghost of Sparta are not necessarily those of the gray area or the Black Men Field Network.
oh, shut up over there. You know what? That's it. You're getting a button tonight.
You've reached your limit on talking. Shut the fuck up.
You couldn't help yourself, Paul. You couldn't.
It was
help-
just that was a layup. You just gave me a layup.
You've
right
reached your limit on talking. Shut the fuck up.
But when it comes down to burning, it depends how bad you burned up, really. It's very few times I see people actually make up and they're cool again and they're just hanging out, being friends again. Rare, very, 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 very rare. And
See, so look, see, you're trying to get us cited here. See, look, Catalia, she's been away for a while. She comes back after a long time, and you start with this.
you know, I have a little present for her. Then you know what I'm saying.
Oh my God!
There you go. Oh, fixed now.
Okay.
No, seriously, I was just kidding. Anyway, she knows that. But all joking aside, like, it's rare. I feel people fix it. You sit down, have a conversation, and make it. We usually don't. They don't. Once you get hit that mark, that's it. You're done. You're done. You better hear gunshots and anything else.
Understand, but is that like I said, is that a cultural thing more so? Because again, I mean, obviously anybody can be done depending on what the offense is, but are Greeks just culturally less forgiving when it comes to certain things? So it's just like, you know, that whole "I'm dead to you" kind of thing.
I
So
don't see that.
I don't see that as a cultural thing in America as much. Yes, as there's dysfunction, absolutely, all those kind of things, but it tends to be more specific, but or to the personality as of the person. But as a culture, do you see Greeks? It's like, you know, you cross a Greek, it's like, oh man, it's done more so compared to Americans, since you have the experience of both.
I don't think it's a culture thing. Like I said, I think it's more what's the word I'm looking for? A person thing. I don't think it's a culture thing. I don't think it's a Latino thing. I don't think it's a black thing. I don't think it's a Mexican thing. I don't think it's a Russian. I think it's a person thing in general. And like, let me ask a question: if somebody crossed you the wrong way, they're done with you, right?
Not necessarily. It depends on the relationship. It depends on how long they've known me. Also, again, what is their act of repentance? If they come to me sincerely and apologize and take ownership of the actions that they took, can we get past this? And again, I'm obligated. Again, a lot of people wouldn't say that, but again, I'm to forgive 70 times 7. If a relationship can be restored, and if a person's willing, generally I'm the type of person I will give you an opportunity. I'm not just one to just say, like, you know, I just kind of just shut you off.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, circumstances change, situations, things happen, you know. As long as that can be explained, be like, all right, we can get past. But again, you got to do the work though, in terms of extending that olive branch.
Yeah.
And if you don't do those things, then I have no reason to. So again, you know, situational, but I'm typically not a you burn me, I'm done with you type of person, unless I just get a vibe from you that you just never cared to begin with or whatever. I mean, I'm pretty good at kind of sensing when something's a sincere mistake and when things are repeated. And my thing has always been the best apology is corrected behavior. So I know I've seen people come in, oh man, I'm so sorry. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And then you're doing the same thing next week. That one, I'll be like, yeah, man, you just run a game here. So again, I think that you have to, for me, I try as best as I can to look at a situation one step at a time. I remember one time, I don't know why, there was this security guard at work, and back at this job I had, you had to show your badge to kind of get in. One time I came, well, actually no, it was optional, right? So again, you hit the scanner, the door open, and you kind of went in. And for some